Atu ngaro te tangata, Toitū te whenua. Man disappears from sight, yet the land remains. Ko Matangireia, Matangareia, Yates-Francis tōku ingoa, he uri no ngā rohe katoa o te arawa waka, mai make tū ki Tongariro. Ka toro atu o ki tātai whakapapa anō hoki ki teitanga maha ki rongo whakata me Ngāti Mania poto. Me ki ko oku mahi, kei roto i te ao toi whaihanga, ngā mahi hoa whare anō hoki. Tēnei e kokea nei, e akina nei, tēnei ao Māori, ki roto i ngā huatanga o te hoa whare, o te tikanga i whai au tēnei huarahi, ka timata ki taku whakatupuranga, no ki te waimaria i tupu ake ai roto i te ao toi Māori, taku pāpā he kai tāmoko, anō hoki te whānau o tōku māma, ka anō hoki roto i tēnei ao te toi whaihanga, no reira, i reira momo mahi. And I guess being brought up in Rotorua, you're surrounded by our culture and as well as our wharenui, those playing huge parts in instrumental sort of inspirations to firstly, understand the built form and the built structure and how our mātauranga can inform those structures. Sort of inspired me to take that leap to attend university, and there really instilled, I guess, the drive to be able to gain more mātauranga through architecture and gain those skills to hopefully bring back to our whānau and inspire or influence our built environment. The term Tūhononga, which I've used to title my thesis, derived from the main themes that were carried throughout my writing, which was centred around co-occupancy. If we look at the word co-occupancy as to co-occupy, but in the context of the thesis, it looked at co-occupying space with our more than human, which in this case is our Taiao. So looking at those intrinsic relationships that are already there for us as Māori, we can trace our whakapapa back to our atua, and I guess that being an indication of our relationship that we should always have with our Taiao. I guess through my rangahau, through research, the themes of ancient methods of living was a perfect sort of segue heading into researching a lot more into our pā, into Papakāinga and what that all meant, I guess, from a traditional sense, which actually set a tone for how I was looking into, I guess, our modern context of how we utilise those kupu, especially the term Papakāinga. In all honesty, I believe the term Papakāinga has become commercialised. When you think about Papakāinga, I think of my Papakāinga, for example, here in Rotorua in Te Arawa, where it was built by my kraua with his bare hands, has seen through multiple generations, where whānau were sharing kai, sharing resources, connection to marae and our pā was paramount. Tikanga was always lived and breathed. But currently, I guess what we see when we hear Papakāinga and see Papakāinga today, you see subdivided whenua, subdivided whānau, and I guess there is no attention to our Taiao. There's no consideration of the upkeep of our Taiao. And so when our Taiao isn't healthy, we as people won't be healthy, which brings me to that famous term, māwiwi whenua, māwiwi tangata. And I guess that kōrero speaks volumes to, I guess, how we are living today. When the land is unwell, we are unwell. Within my thesis, I talk about this term Anthropocene, the term given by scientists to stipulate the current state we are living in as a civilization, where our actions as humans are having a huge negative impact on our Taiao. So we have to be aware that our actions and our environment will decrease if we keep moving and keep living the way we are living today. And so that was the whakaaro with incorporating our connection back to Taiao and the importance of that, I guess, in the sense of solutions that we can, I guess, enact and do today. Within my thesis, I talk about repositioning our focus to a Māori worldview and how our mātauranga Māori can have a huge influence in how in policy, but also regulations and law that can be more appropriate for not just people, but how I've always talked about also our Taiao. The inspiration for the pā, actually, and why I've gone vertical, is to speak to or push the boundaries of what we consider a Papakāinga or a pā, but also to think about how we can better utilise our whenua. Some of the debates through the rangahau, I found that there was a struggle to go vertical purely because of the aspect of our connection to our whenua as Māori, and how important that is to touch the soil, to have your feet on the grass, and also to practice the likes of marakai, ahu whenua, all those sorts of practices we have intrinsic in our culture. But I guess how I've been able to mitigate, or my whakaaro and how we work with that, is one, going vertical was to minimise our footprint on our whenua, as there is a scarce resource of whenua today, especially within our Māori communities. But also going vertical allowed me to think of innovative ways to incorporate or to ensure that whānau was still having that connection to Taiao. Kei whare nui rise, tātou, whenua tūhonoa I ngā iwi o Ngāti Whakaue, Ngāti Pikiao, Ngāti Uenuku Kōpako, Ngāti Te Roro Te Rangi. The appropriateness, I guess, of the site was based off, I guess, the connection to, first of all, our key landmarks. There was a huge part in, I guess, why I chose this specific site was line of sight to our lakes, Te Rotorua, key landmark like Ngongotaha, but also having identified key water aspects like the Waingai that flows down below, and utilising, I guess, the pā, or installing the pā to utilise, I guess, those aspects of our Taiao and our environment. The process of the project, or the incremental stages that follow the 100-year process of the development, starting with the reforestation. And that starts with, first of all, checking soil types, and because of its history, not just with its farm use, but also with the likes of the Tarawera eruption, has produced the perfect soil for planting and for harvesting. And so we start with the first layer of shrubs, to then set a layer for the native trees to have that canopy to then prosper into a full-fledged ngahere. That process will probably take up to about 15 years. And the opportunity too is to provide whānau, or those who might occupy the land or occupy the whare, the Papakāinga, gives them the opportunity to partake and interact with the whenua before they even move in. So following that 15 years will be the introduction, I guess, of the first few whare that will be situated on this whenua, where we will see, I guess, the ngahere sort of at quarter level scale, but just enough to create an environment for the pā. Then following that, another 15 years or so, depending on how the community grows, we'll see the inclusion of a second addition to the pā themselves, possibly an introduction of extra kāinga on the land. And then hopefully by, I guess, the fourth stage, we'll see a thriving community, one that is, living in harmony with our Taiao, and then by the final phase, this whenua is pictured to be surrounded by native bush, ngahere, but installed within there are our kāinga. And so that's the dream, that was the aspiration.
Toitū te whenua, toitū te tangata. When the land is thriving, the people will thrive.
The goal is that it doesn't sit as a structure alone, that it's not dormant as just a building. It has a life of its own beyond the inhabitants themselves. So if we were to look at the roof, for example, there I've proposed a green roof where marakai is present, enabling whānau to enact in those practices again. But also the bed soil of their roof acts as a filtration system, where it catches our water, ngā rangi nui o ngā roimata, ka heke i tērā tuapapa o te taumata, and then from there it filters and is recycled through our living quarters in the middle section of the pā. They're being utilised either as fresh water, but also being used within grey water systems and all the like. And then from there, being captured, then recycled and filtered through water catchments, which are seen within our ngahere. And there you will see present within that space, enacting the realms of haumia tike tike, rongomatane, or their mara to filter our wai before it heads into our awa, which is the waingahe awa adjacent to the pā, and then creating this cycle of going into our lakes before it goes to our lakes and then into our oceans, and then pretty much repeats itself. So looking at the pā beyond the building, or looking at a building beyond just the building itself and how it can act and support the wider ecosystem that we live in, and that it contributes, to our wider environment. In essence, Tūhononga as a rangahau can be a platform not just for Māori, but also I guess for Aotearoa as a whole to take influence and take grab of and utilise however they seem fit. My honest opinion on how far I think we are from hitting that end result of Tūhononga was, I guess, what I stipulated within the thesis, and it was 100 years. Just because of the current state we live in, currently predominantly westernised, not just how we live but also how we behave. Our environments we live in aren't really ready, not just environmentally but also regulations, law, all those kind of things that we still have to change and challenge. But proposing such aspirations, I guess for me was in the hope of instilling whakaaro, pushing our whānau to think more, to think bigger, because we can. We will find for townships to grow today, we are stepping into iwi land. And so iwi and hapu and our whānau Māori will be in positions to negotiate and discuss how their whenua will be utilised. And so the thesis is just a base to, I guess, encourage whānau to think more, but also encourage them to push those boundaries, I guess, starting today. By the time we hit the end goal of Tūhononga, not just whānau are prospering, but the affection to our Taiao was there and present. And if we had to think about the reforestation whakaaro, we might not be sitting underneath their canopy today, but our tamariki, our mokopuna will be.